Over the years, sheep identification with spray markers has been the norm, but what's happened is these spray markers are getting right into the fibre of the wool, and of course they're not washing out. Fade away the ingredients that won't penetrate the fibre. The beauty of it is that it will wash out.
I can see in the background there, it looks like you've got some pretty fancy markers.
Yeah, we have. It's quite exciting, especially for the wool industry too at the moment, because it's turning in the right direction again, and which is good for farmers, but coarse wool starting to get a bit more value back into it.
Yeah, I noticed that with a couple of the manufacturers, the coarse wool is used by TNR Interior Systems. They're using it as a baffle panel. I actually use it in my home studio here. That's all coarse wool, and they were saying that this just doesn't have the value because it's not merino, yet because of the way they've managed to angle it, it can reduce noise in corporate offices. So they're selling these into corporates around the world.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah, you've got Cavalier Carpets, for example, made a commitment to go 100% wool within 12 months. And that's from their survey around the globe about their target audience and what they're wanting. So it's changing, it's going back.
Do you think some of that's to do with Kiwis and consumers, well, actually global consumers as well, being a little bit more aware of their impact on the planet and sustainability?
Yep, definitely. And look, I think COVID's had a bit to do with it too in a positive way. They're spending more time in their home environment. They're looking at things. They've got a bit more money because they're not spending it on travel and bits and pieces. And they're looking at options for carpets, for example. And we all know wool's the best, but sometimes the price difference was a barrier, but it doesn't appear to be now. But that Cavalier was saying the message was loud and clear. We want wool. Do away with the synthetic carpet, and you'll get the support.
So that's good for the sector. Then tell me more a little bit about this product that you've been working on under the Animal Health Direct banner.
Yeah, well, what's happened is over the years, sheep identification with spray markers has been the norm. But what's happened is these spray markers are getting right into the fibre of the wool. So you've got your little bit of wool there, and it can absorb 30% of its dry weight in moisture. So what's happening is these chemical spray dyes are going into that fibre, and of course they're not washing out. They should, but they're not. And as wool's been on a downturn and farmers have paid less attendance to presentation of their wool clip, the wool clip's been going in and presented to buyers with all the stained wool through it. Some of it may be taken out. It's gone through scouring plants. It doesn't wash out. So it's become a big problem. So look, we identified that about 13 months ago. And then from there, we developed with a local company a product that would, one, wash out, and two, still remain as an identified mark for up to 5 months. And the timing, as it's turned out, it's been pretty good because, as I said, coarse wool is on the turn again. It's going upwards. Farmers are getting the message about preparing their fleeces better. So what we're saying is, if you get a bit of wool like that, it's got this one's got a dye through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been in there 5 months. It's been washed I don't know how many times. It's not coming out compared to a nice bit of fleece that had our product on it and it's washed clean. What they're doing is they've still got to skirt that as they turn the fleece and get that stained, that dyed wool out. But if they've used our product Fade Away, that wool will be washed clean and it's got some value. If it's stained, it's got no value. So in fact, it's to the stage where the wool buyers are saying to the farmers, dump that wool, don't send it in. It's of no value to them. So it's been disappointing for the wool industry in a way that wool's been presented badly over recent years because of the value dropping, but now it's coming back in, and we've given the farmers and the wool industry a real lift for something to fix that problem.
So this is about
how it works is that Fade Away the ingredients that won't penetrate the fibre. It'll sit on top. It's almost repelled by the fibre, but it will sit on top, and but the beauty of it is it will wash out.
That's really exciting. So you've got a product there that helps the wool be presented better when it goes into the scourers from the farmers, which then means the scourers can get more wool out of what's presented to them from the farmers. And in a lifting macroeconomic market of where wool's heading, that means more money in the farmer's pocket. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Instead of having a big size station might have a couple of bales of stained wool of no value, they can go and get scoured, clean, and put it on in front of the international buyers. It's it's got some value.
It's a little thing, isn't it? But it adds additional value to processes they're already doing. I'm going to ask a really silly question now, which is, why do you need to mark sheep on a farm? There's different colors there. Let me into the secret code of marking sheep.
So the main use period is probably over what they call a scanning period, where they're scanning ewes for inland. So they mark, if a ew's got triplets, she might get a green mark. If it's twins, a blue mark. If it's a single, might get a red mark. So they can identify them and then draft them off and then look after them feed-wise accordingly for the needs of that sheep. That's a big use period coming up from about March, April, May. There's a lot of it used then. We're actually developing fadeaway as a bulk liquid to be used through bigger type machines that do scanning, identifying marks rather than a can. But that's another story. It's used a lot at lambing when the farmers want to identify twins. So they might mark the ewe with a blue 2, for example, and then put blue 2 on each of the lambs so they don't get mismothered. It's used a lot this time of the year for ram selection when ram buyers are coming in, and they'll spray the ram. So I want that one, and they'll spray that one. So most of the time, Ryan, it's a dot somewhere on the back of the head or down the back. Depends how not lazy the farmer is, but what they're used to doing. Just out of interest, when we did our trials with fadeaway, we were marking on down the back of the fleece a good 30 centimetre long mark. So that was a lot of dye that had to wash out compared to a little dot, which is traditionally used. And the other advantage is in the scanning operation, they're normally sitting in a little hut and they're reading the computer screen. It's showing if it's got twins. And when they're using that can, we've got the friendly carbons in ours, so we don't sort of send them on a bit of a trip away somewhere when they're using it. It's user friendly. Yeah.
So good and healthy for the farmers as well. That now makes sense that that color coding, and I guess different farms would have different sets of color codes, but it's an internal set of rules or symbols that helps you manage your flock better before they go off to wool scouring or go off for processing.
Yeah, right down to drafting lambs for processing plants. They might go through and mark the ones that they want to draft off to go off to the processing plant. So that's also, with the scanning one, it's really important that the product stays there long enough to identify those ewes again later on. Yeah. Really close to lambing. So they can draft them off, say, right, well, we know she's got triplets. She'll need looking after better feed-wise than the one with the single, for example. So initially we were aiming for around 3 months, but the market told us they'd like to have 5 months, the product staying there. So our product will stay there for 5 months without an issue. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you've managed to create something that does the marking process for up to 5 months, but at the same time it sits on top of the wool rather than actually dyeing the wool. So when it comes to the scourers, they can remove out all the markings because they're now unnecessary. They actually become an impediment to giving farmers a good price for their wool.
Oh, correct. Yeah. It's really quite exciting. It's and it's good that it's a local thing. It's we've worked with another local company to get this, and it's relatively simple, but it's also very clever.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you, is that when you sent that across, I thought, well, isn't this already being done? Like, why hasn't this been thought of before? What was the thing that the spark that you went, actually, I know this is a problem and I'm going to solve it?
Cut a long story short, the company that I worked with to develop this told me a story about developing a product for road marking the road after car accidents. Because one of the biggest issues they have when the police get there is they spray the road, and then that road's got to be retar sealed to get rid of the marks on the road. So they developed a product that would wash away easily. Being a government department, of course, they didn't want to know about it. But anyway, I was driving along listening to the farming program about 15 months ago, and they had a session about the problem with stained wool and what a big issue it's becoming. And we know a wool scouring plant that's got 300 tonne of wool sitting there, marked. It's been through the plant 3 times. They can't wash it out. It's serious. But anyway, the penny dropped when I was driving along. I thought, geez, I wonder whether that formulation would work on wool. So I had a meeting with the manufacturing chemist and explained to him what I was looking for. And he said, yep, I know how to make that happen. So we went from there. So about October last year, we started doing our own sort of internal trials and shot down to Carfield's Wool, who were just over the road, and got some fleeces from them and told them what we were doing. And they were really excited. They said, it's fantastic to see someone showing an interest in the wool industry again. And so we did our sort of agricultural in-house trials. And it worked. We thought, right, we're onto something here. So then we went up a level and got independent farmers to use it on, like a minimum of 100 sheep in 3 different regions. So it was had different climatic conditions thrown at it, and then all the wool went in together, and the result was good. Now, when we say good, it's over 90%, and to the visible eye, it's clean. There'd still be some residues in there, Ryan, I've got to be honest, but you can't see them. You'd have to put a microscope to it. But from a buyer's point of view, we want to develop it further so that if a farmer uses that type of product like fadeaway, he should be rewarded for it. And some identification mark on his wool bales to show that he's used fadeaway. So we've come up with a little symbol called clear to share, which means he can clear his sheep. There's no residues in his wool as far as wool dyes go. And the overseas buyer or local buyer can identify that and know he's getting as clean a wool as you can possibly get.
That's interesting. So you're not just solving the problem there, but you're also then letting farmers talk about them solving the problem with the end buyer, which gives them actually communication through wool scours through to that end buyer, which gives that bale more perceived, well, it's more actual value. It's more confidence that what is in that bale has been looked after on the farm.
Correct. Yep. They haven't just gone along with a known product, bang, marked it, sprayed it, there for good, can't wash out. They've put some thought into it, used some new technology, knowing that the fleece can be presented better.
And that's clear to share. That's the mark that'll be.
Yeah. So we've trademarked that little logo. We've got a little logo, but that's another step, but we're just thinking ahead. It'll also tie in well with other products we do in the sheep industry, like sheep dips and that type of thing, with residues, making sure that they adhere to the withholding periods and that type of thing. So it's trying to add some value to what the farmer's doing, saying it's almost like an audit, that he's done everything correct as per label instructions, and that wool has little to no residues, little to no staining from dye mark because he's used certain products.
It's amazing because your product is superseding something that's been around for what, decades?
Oh God, yes. I mean, there was the old chalk. The stock agents would come out with their chalk markers and mark them. And some of those they have trouble getting out. And I'm not going to talk about the other products that are out there, but they have been around for a while. Yeah. And it's just been accepted. And so we're saying, well, hold it. We've got an alternative here. It's better.
So now that you've got the innovation and you've drawn inspiration from a different sector to create this product, that's step one. You've protected it. You can see that there's a way of putting a certification around it to increase the value of the wool once it's been scoured. How do you then get that next piece, which is the sales and marketing? I know with AHD you've got very good distribution channels, but how are you going to get the farmer to go, all right, Richard, it's time. I'm going to hang up my chalk. I'm going to hang up the old way of doing it, and I'm going to swap across to your sheep marking product?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. It's not easy because distribution channels, yeah, we've got them, but to try and get them to accept the new technology, it's a breakthrough for the wool industry. It's not been easy. So we've done some advertising, we've done the traditional print media, and we've done a lot on the social media platform, and that's working. We're getting a lot of taking a lot of calls from farmers. The biggest disappointment is they wander into your local merchandise store and they haven't got it. And it's another tack, but the whole industry, when these sort of things come along, and they're really worried about the threat of direct selling, online buying from farmers, but they're not doing anything to help themselves. Because at the end of the day, we've invested in the product. We've got the product here. It's no good in our warehouse. It needs to be used on the sheep, and the farmers have got to be able to get at it. So if the distribution channels aren't going to pick it up and put it in front of the farmers, and it should be in every sheep location store in the country. It's a no-brainer, but that's the hard part. And I guess, there are other tools now available to us if we don't get the momentum with it. But honestly, out of our product range that we launched and things, we've taken a lot more calls on this product than anything else. There's a genuine interest from the farmer about, oh, this stuff works. Well, you say it works, I want to try it. So we've got large-scale scanning operators who go out and contract to farms to scan these sheep, lining up for the product to start February, March. Really interested in it. And some of them we've worked with as well. So will you try it first, make sure you're happy, and they've come back, thumbs up, this is what we want to use. In fact, in the last 2 days, I had a big scanning operation up the East Coast go into a local merchandise store saying, have you got this product for me yet? And they haven't got it. He said, well, you better start getting that, because this is what I want. And of course, the question comes to me, will you supply me direct? and it gets uncomfortable. We want to support our distribution channel. But yeah, it's not that easy.
And that's the hard thing that many manufacturers or innovators within the Buy New Zealand Made group have to consider, right? Because you want to support your distribution channels because they give you something you can't do, which is a sales force, education, a physical presence, somewhere you can go and pick up the gate or read that. There's a whole lot of things you can do in a store that you can never do online. But I think for a product like this, it's not going to cost a lot to just pick up 5 cans, one of each color, get it sent to your house, try it for 3 or 4 months before March, and go, okay, now I believe in it, and then either go down to your shop or reorder. So it would be making sense for your retail stores to put in some pre-Christmas orders, wouldn't it?
Well, you'd think so. I mean, we have done a lot of that. We've said to the farmers, look, we'll send you a can. What colour would you like? You try it, and you let us know what you think. And a lot of them said, no, don't bother. I'll just get hold of the local, and I won't name the companies, and tell them to get some in for me because I'm going to be in town next Friday. And from distribution point of view, I mean, their message to us is you've got to generate the interest at the other end. So we're flat out doing that, but it goes both ways. They've got to have the product there for them to come and pick up as well. So that's just been a little barrier we're working through, and I guess with technology out there now, and we all know what other options there are. If we have to go that way, we will.
Well, it certainly sounds like it needs to be out there for the wool industry, and congratulations on this particular innovation. Although this isn't all you do, though, right? Like, let's talk a little bit about the core business, because we've talked previously about Animal Health Direct, but a lot of the Buy New Zealand Made audience would have heard that chat. What does AHD do? What's the bigger company do?
I guess look, we're probably, our focus is 60% and growing into production animals. So that's sheep and beef. So we do a lot in the dairy industry space. More recently, in the last, this is our 3rd summer, we've got a sheep dip range, fly and lice control range, pour-ons and saturation dipping. And 1st of January 2021, we take over a complete anthelmintic, which is a sheep and cattle drench.
anthelmintic. So this is that's the product name, or is that the range?
That's the phrase for it. It's the company's called, well, I can't actually say at the moment because it's not till 1st of January, but we will have added to our portfolio a complete range of drenches for the farmers. So it's going to be great for AHD because it sort of rounds us off more as an animal health company. We had a few gaps in that space, but as from January 1, that'll be different. So.
And we won't jump the gun on that. I know due diligence is an important time in a business transfer.
So in terms of the deal was done. So
congratulations on that too.
Yeah.
And so your business actually manufactures these chemicals to the exacting standards and formulations required to keep animals either healthy or to vaccinate them or to keep their levels at the rate required to grow a healthy animal. Is there anything else that I've missed there of what you do for the animal?
No, not really. I mean, we are doing more down the preventative medicine type approach, which is very much in that focus of animal welfare, which is a big issue. But yeah, that's again, that's not easy. There are, how do we put it? There's been some issues with how we see the product and where we'd like it to go and how MPI see it, for example. We've had a few little battles there, but it's a lot of the stuff about bringing new technology into the market. A lot of it has to come offshore because that's where a lot of it's happening. Our big competitors, the multinationals, aren't investing that heavily in New Zealand anymore. Our stock numbers have dropped quite dramatically, and they've got bigger markets to play in, which is great for us. It's getting harder and harder though, with regulations, compliance, to have these products available for the farmer. But we try really hard because we certainly believe that it's important that we can deliver an option for a farmer, that they have that option available to them. There's an alternative. They're not getting dictated to through a particular channel or a particular brand, and this is what you'll pay. I think it's important that we don't, as a country, we don't lose sight of that. Our farmers need those options because, as you know, they have highs and lows too. And sometimes they need to cut back on animal health a bit. Not that we're saying we're the cheap and cheerful option, but we are an alternative. And we're New Zealand owned and operated, so it's very important.
Very important indeed. Another question I had for you, Richard, before we finish up was, is there anything coming up on the horizon around products that allow farmers intensity of stock around while still being able to hit methane targets if that ever becomes a thing? So with more of the focus on sustainability and environment, which farmers have been part of and contributing to helping for many decades, is there any new technology coming that you're going to be a part of?
We're probably about 8 years ago, we were a bit ahead of the game and had an idea of a product that we actually got as far as going to Ruakura with in research. And then when it came to the funding side of it and what was required to take it further, it was way beyond what my company could do. So we had to park that. But there's some developments going on in that area now, and I'm sort of starting to get itchy feet about going back and revisiting this product that we have, which we knew worked in other areas. And it was suggested to me then that this product could actually have some benefits in that area you're talking about. But on that, next week I'm meeting with an American company on a very exciting product for settling ponds and dairy farms, keep them clean, so that when they pump that water out onto the pastures, it's clean water, no nitrogens, getting rid of the leaching problem and no smell. And things that the government are wanting, regional councils to police. And now I'm not saying that this is a breakthrough technology. I understand there could be 2 or 3 products like that out there, but this is well proven. It's been trialled over here, and we've got this chance to pick up New Zealand distribution for it. So we're about to go and learn about that next Thursday, but that looks really exciting. For a dairy farmer to be able to hose down his dairy shed and that wastewater, manure, etc., going into a settling pond that he can keep clean, crystal clean, and put that water back out on his pasture without doing any damage. Yeah, could be quite exciting.
That is good, because the historical way of doing it, if my memory serves me correctly, is you would spray it across all of your land to distribute the problem, so it didn't create a massive problem in one area, and actually that nutrients could be picked up by the soil or by the grass and would repropagate. But this actually turns it into just
Clear
clean
water,
water.
yeah. So you don't get that sludge going out, and you don't get that smell, and you're not losing any of the fertility aspects of what you're putting on. All the trials have shown fantastic growth with grass where it's put on, either through the old travelling irrigators or the irripods, as they call them. It's been trialled in vegetable crops, for example, as well. It's quite interesting. It's yeah, we see a good space for it in the dairy industry because, again, they're under the spotlight for that type of thing. Even into ones that are moving away from settling ponds into big holding tanks. You still got to keep those tanks. You can keep them clean, and the water to the value that you put back on the pastures, it's got to be good.
Yeah, I like that. Anything that can keep farmers farming at intensive levels without having the intensive side effects on the environment is a productivity and a cleanliness gain.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's no choice. I mean, our customers are demanding. That's what we do. And at the end of the day, you've got to comply with what they want.
And you've always been looking for like the next new thing. That's what's always struck me about you, is that you're always looking for, could I turn that into a product, or how can I do this better? Where does that passion come from?
Geez, Ron, bugger do I know. It's I guess, look, when you start your own business and you go into business, it's, as everyone knows, it's not easy, and you're always looking for something to just keep you a bit ahead of someone else, or you're always up against the big players, the big brands. But when you're out on your own and you've got an interest in that, and I'm passionate about it, agriculture, you have the ability to think on your feet, adapt quickly. I don't have a big management chain I've got to go through to make a decision. If I think, yep, that's a goer, I'll make that call, and we go for it. And I guess I'm fortunate that I've got the connections with the manufacturing industries in New Zealand from my days working with multinationals, that I can go to them and say, hey, I've got this idea, can you do it? And I haven't been turned down yet. And I often find that they're more than happy to work with you to improve your idea, because my ones can be pretty raw and basic. And there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And then you've got to, of course, get it through the correct channels of MPI so it can be used. Yeah, there's a bit to it. But I guess it's part of surviving, I think. It's just, you don't take anything for granted. I mean, every sale we appreciate, and you just don't take it for granted. And if we can come up with something that we think, wow, farmers would really enjoy, that would be great for them, we'll give it a go.
Superb. And before we finish up, the sheep marking product, how much is it for, let's say, a 5-can pack? And for someone listening to this, what's the website they can go to?
So the fadeaway, it comes in a 400ml can at the moment. We are going to do a 200ml can. We've currently got the product. It's been trialled in Australia under a trial set by the Australian Wool Authority. And the particular customer who wants the product, they want it in a 200ml can size. So we're just waiting for that to come through before we do another size. This can, they tell me, retails about $13, including GST, at your local farm merchandise outlet or veterinary outlet. So it's a competitive product. It's 400ml can, and it's a bit of breakthrough technology for wool.
Superb. Great for our wool industry. Well done for bringing that to market, Richard. And I'm looking forward to sharing our chat with NZ Made fans.